Still one of the most creepiest sound effects in horror movie history, right there. Welcome everybody. Something new, something different from this channel. I am here with Paul Burt. Paul was with me for the Halloween Kills review. Paul, say hello to the people, Paul.
How's it going, guys? Back for another round.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And today is a definitely a special kind of video because Paul, he's like my source when it comes to anything that's happening in horror because everybody knows I'm an action/horror junkie, and he always keeps me up to date on anything current that's in horror and current horror and anything that's going to happen, and he. Keep in mind, I had no idea this was going to happen. I had no clue this was even going to exist. But he broke to me that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is going to be released on Netflix in February. And then, of course, me and Paul exchanged DMs, and we just had this conversation about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the franchise as a whole. And it was funny because the more and more I kept talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the more and more I started to get worked up. And I was like, you know what? This will be a good topic to talk about. So yeah, we're here to discuss Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new movie, and we're going to talk about the franchise and the movies as a whole. And I named the video Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise Where It All Started. Now, the reason why I called it Where It All Started is because and Paul, whatever you want to chime in, you're more than welcome to. Go right ahead.
All right, man.
But I say Texas Chainsaw Massacre is where it all started is because me being the horror fan that I am, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in 1974. 1974, in the same year, Black Christmas came out in the same year.
That's right.
1974 was a pretty monumental year for horror because you have two movies in Black Christmas and this movie here, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that you could say laid the foundation for what was to come just a decade later. You could arguably say, now, if you really want to go deep into it, you could point at Psycho and all that stuff. But for me, I always consider Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas the two movies that laid the blueprint for what Halloween follows, what Friday the 13th follows, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, basically the whole slasher genre. Like if Michael Myers is Michael Jordan, Leatherface is Dr. J. If Michael Myers is Hulk Hogan, Leatherface is Andre or Bruno Sammartino, whoever he wants to name. To me, Leatherface was, you could point to say, was the original slasher. The original slasher of his kind, killing teenage kids one by one in a very, very gruesome way. And thus birthing in one of the most iconic horror films of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, my thoughts on the first film. It's a classic. It's an absolute classic, and it's a classic not in the sense of it's a slasher, but it doesn't necessarily present itself like a slasher. It presents itself like a documentary. Like it presents itself like kind of like a found footage film. Like it kind of presents it like a found footage film, like how the movie's filmed, how it's shot. You feel like you're right there. You feel like you're with Sally and Frank and Franklin, who I fucking hated, by the way. But
Yeah.
like you feel like you're those group of kids in the 70s were basically hippies. I mean, let's call it what it was. And when you pick up the hitchhiker and the hitchhiker doing this weird random shit in the van, cutting himself and all that stuff, and then you know you go to the house, and then that iconic scene when the boyfriend runs into the house and Leatherface just shows up and hits him with the sledgehammer. You know, like it doesn't feel like a slash or typical slasher film, and it kind of feels like a found footage film. Which, hell, you could kind of say that Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of laid the foundation for what Blair Witch was going to be, what fucking Paranormal Activity is going to be, with its documentary style based filmmaking. And of course, you know, the director of the movie, Tobe Hooper, directed the film, and this is one of those movies where it's an experience. It's one of those movies where you're kind of like, what the fuck am I watching right now? And we all know the story that, you know, it was based on Ed Gein. If you look up Ed Gein, you know, a sick fucker. But we learn about the Sawyer family, you know, kidnapping, butchering, eating kids, cannibals, pretty much. Marilyn Burns, who plays Sally, who you could say was the original final girl in horror movies. Marilyn Burns and Olivia Hussey's character in Black Christmas, you could say those are the two original final girls in horror and slasher films. You can't say Janet Leigh in Psycho because, you know, even though she has the most iconic scene, but she dies halfway through. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 is creepy, haunting, and of course we get to see the famous dinner scene. Which, by the way, Paul, did you know that scene took 36 hours straight to film?
Yeah, I did hear about that when I was watching the film with the audio commentary, and I saw the documentary. That there was probably the most grueling shot of the entire film, because they literally put Marilyn Burns through a lot of hell to capture that essence of just that grueling brutality and just the all-around visceral fucking insanity that we were seeing in that dinner scene. So, yeah, they went through hell, but, you know, they say sometimes you got to suffer for the art, and it clearly did show on that scene, and it clearly was very effective. And, you know, the whole film was just a raw experience. And that dinner scene alone, just, if I have to sum it up, the whole film and that scene, I would just sum it up as simply insanity captured on the film, but in a good way for the film. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think that's why we get, I couldn't find the clip, but we all know the ending where she barely escapes. And shout out to that truck driver who saves her. But she barely escapes, and we get the scene when she's driving away, and she's like hysterical, like she's laughing maniacally, which now hearing these stories, I believe was not acting. I think she really was freaking laughing hysterical, because she's like, we're now finally finished filming this fucking movie.
Yeah, she was done. Like, she was like physically and mentally done. Like, that was it.
And then, you know, and shout out to Gunnar Hansen, who I got right on the screen there, the original Leatherface. In my opinion, still the best person to ever play the Leatherface character. And how Leatherface is presented in this movie is, and you kind of get this sense as the franchise goes along that, yes, he's the villain per se, but you learn later that he is really a pawn. Really, that he's just the muscle of the real evils in the family. You know, when this film, you got the cook, you know, and then you got the hitchhiker. Which by the way, the hitchhiker, the guy who played the hitchhiker said, you know, filming that dinner scene was one of the worst experiences he's ever had in his life, and he was a Vietnam vet, so that says a lot.
Damn, I didn't realize that before.
Yes, and Gunnar Hansen, he had to go through hell because keep in mind, this was filmed in Texas, and I believe like it was like 90-degree weather, like every single fucking day they were filming this movie. So look at what Gunnar Hansen was wearing in the movie, and look what he's wearing in this picture. He had to wear that shit all day, every day, for the amount of time they had to film this movie, carrying a big ass chainsaw, and apparently it wasn't a gimmick. Apparently that was like an actual fucking chainsaw that he was wielding out there, like every scene. So if he tripped and fell, bro, it'll be no movie.
Yeah. Because I think if I remember correctly, they actually got that chainsaw in a hardware store. So that was like because it was a very low budget guerrilla style filmmaking. They didn't have the safety precautions that you see in films nowadays. So him swinging that chainsaw, man, it was like a case of like, man, you better not mess up with this because if you make one false swing, it's gonna cause some serious damage. And I'm just looking at the comment section. I'm seeing what Logan is saying here. He said he watched this movie when he was quarantined from COVID, and it fucked him up.
That said a lot too, because this movie came out in the 70s, and the fact that this movie still, I mean, it still kind of fucked me up when I'm watching it. Like I felt like it made me itch a little bit every time I watch it, you know. But yes, but how Gunnar Hansen plays Leatherface here, I believe is the best person to play, because you see a guy who, yes, he's a killer, but he's more complex than that. Like you could tell he has a childlike mentality to him. Like one of the best scenes, in my opinion, is when he puts. What's that?
The bit where he's freaking out with all these people showing up in the house, and he's like, "Man, what the fuck's going on?"
Yes, exactly. Which was a very interesting scene because you're kind of like, because like I said, he has like a childlike mind. Like, yeah, he's killing these people, but in his mind, he think he's just defending his home. Because he's like, it's kind of like Michael Myers' Halloween Kills in a little bit, but like he's just like, yeah, why do these people keep coming into my house or whatsoever? And I thought it was a really, really good scene, really well acted by Gunnar Hansen. You kind of get to see the psyche of Leatherface, which I think they don't really dive too deep into, like how they do it in here. But yeah, man, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974. I mean, I already did a review on it. If you want to look it up, my thoughts on it, but it's a classic, one of the greatest horror films of all time. And the fact that this is named as one of the most bloodiest movies ever, and there's really no blood in this film, says a lot. It says a lot. And Tobe Hooper wanted this to be a PG film, which is fucking hilarious to me.
Can you imagine if it did get a PG?
Oh shit! That guy, and you got to think about this too. The 70s was a different time back then. So the shit that we saw, okay, I know when you watch this movie now and you see this movie, you're like, oh, I don't see what the big deal is. But the shit that we're showing back then in this movie was wild back then. But yeah. I love this movie. It's a bona fide classic. Paul, what are your thoughts on the first film?
Oh man, all right. This is going to be a long one, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember when I heard the name first initially, I was like, "What's that?" So then I ended up coming across the movie during one of my parents' movie nights because my parents used to have a lot of those movie nights, and I used to sneak down and watch these movies without them knowing. And it got to the point where they were just like, "Okay, there's no point in putting him back to bed because he'll just find a way to creep down." So at the age of, I think I was about maybe 4 or 5 when I first had my introduction to the Texas Chainsaw movies. And just watching it then and even watching it now, this movie is just, it still floors me to this day. It still gives me goosebumps. It still gives me that raw, visceral feeling I get when I watch this movie. I mean, even though the movie's like going on 50 years old, and this movie still has that power to shock people that's never seen it before, and even shock guys like me who's seen it God knows how many times, and you still get that visceral experience when you watch it. That just gives you this impression that this movie is just straight up timeless. And like you said earlier, James, like back then, no one saw anything like this before. This was a whole new ball game. Can you imagine what it must have been like for people who saw it initially for the first time in the cinema and seeing something like that? And they were like, man, what the hell did I just watch? And like you said, the whole filming experience, it was just this whole documentary vibe to it. This didn't feel like a traditional film making in an essence. It had this documentary vibe to it. And this movie just, for some reason, the whole presentation, the visual experience, the characters, everything, you would think to yourself, shit, this really did go down. You got this impression that, man, did this really happen, or was this a film? And like I pointed out earlier, it was like insanity on a film, but in a good way. But the experience for me watching it was it's probably, like you said, solid gold, classic movie to this date. And like I said, laid the foundations of what we see in movies today. So it's highly influential. And when people, like I said, it's one of those movies that people just, when they see it, it still has the power to shock. And not many movies out there can say that they can still do that to this day, even 50 years on. So yeah, this movie just, every time I see it, it's just a classic movie. One of the best ones.
Agreed. And after that, a sequel is announced, and you go from the raw, gritty, grimy, just straight dirty first film of this. Then you get Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Now, this is the poster of the first film. You know, who will survive, what will be left of them, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this is the poster of the second film.
Big night and day difference right there.
The poster alone should tell you the vibe that they're going for. And to me, Part 2, going into it after hearing everyone shit on it, everyone talking, you know, how the movie's terrible. A few years ago, I finally took the liberty I had my ways to watch movies back then. And I found Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. And I watched it, and I'm going to tell you, I enjoy the hell out of this movie. Now, Tobe Hooper has said that the vibe of this movie was the vibe that he wanted in the first film. I think he's a little delusional, but all right. And because he said, oh, there's a lot of black comedy in the first film that just went over y'all head. I'm like, nah, bro, no, it wasn't. But okay. And clearly this poster was taking it was ripping off The Breakfast Club. If you look at the Breakfast Club poster and look at this poster, it was ripping off The Breakfast Club. And like I said, you go from the raw, gritty griminess of the first film, and then you get a black comedy in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. It's about a woman who's a disc jockey who overhears the Sawyer family killing a bunch of kids, and they come and take over the radio station that Stretch was her name. Damn, I forgot who played Stretch. Do you remember what her name was, Paul?
I'm just going to find out right now. Hang on. Her name is Caroline Williams.
Caroline Williams, yes, who plays Stretch. And I gotta say, for a movie that does a complete 180 in vibe and tone, I enjoyed the hell out of this. And the biggest reason is the guy in the middle, Bill Moseley, who plays Chop Top. Bro, him and a guy I'm going to get to later, he practically steals the movie. Now, Bill Moseley, we all remember him, from the Firefly trilogy and all that stuff. But this was a lot of people's introduction to Bill Moseley as Chop Top, and he gives an absolute great performance in this movie. He steals the show, like he steals the show from Leatherface.
Absolutely.
And how Leatherface is presented in this, I mean, people really criticized it, and a lot of people hated this film because people were expecting the raw, grimy grittiness of the first film to be here. But no, Leatherface was kind of more of a, how can I say this? He was more of a comedic. He was still dangerous, but he was more like a comedic character in this.
He had a comedic vibe to him on this one. He was still somebody not to be fucked with, but he definitely had a bit more of a humorous side to him in this one.
Exactly. And then we had a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast type thing with Leatherface kind of develops like a little bit of a crush on Stretch, which I thought was a nice, different touch, something that we don't see again in the future Texas films. The Cook makes a return once again. Last time we see him, because he passed away in 2003, I think.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper plays the sheriff, who I think is one of his better performances. I really enjoy it. I thought he was a hoot in this.
Oh yeah.
And one of the first kills we see is a motherfucking kid get his head fucking chopped out with a chainsaw. This is one of the first things we see. And I love the score of this movie. Has like a creepy, like carnival-like sound to it. Dog, I really enjoyed this film. I had a good time watching it. Again, it's an experience. Yes. And it definitely is a 180 from the first film. Like, I don't mind sequels being different from the original as long as it's entertaining. And dog, this is entertaining. I really enjoyed this. And people shit on Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, but I could say that up until the remake, this is like the last enjoyable one. Paul, what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, when you compare that one to the first one, like you said, the first one was gritty as hell, and Part 2 was just a roller coaster ride. It was just fun. Everything about
it felt like it. So sorry to cut you off, but it felt like an amusement park.
Yeah, absolutely. It was literally a roller coaster ride from start to finish. You had the horror, you had the humor, you had all the perfect ingredients that made this one stand out. And the characters in this movie were crazy. I mean, Gunnar Hansen back as Leatherface, he definitely pulled it off really good. Bill Moseley as Chop Top, man, what the hell can I say about this dude? This dude was a fucking live wire in this movie. The way he carried himself, the way he played this character, just this crazy ball of energy, man. And it was just so good. And the fact that those two, him and Leatherface, merged, kind of blended together pretty well. And then of course, Dennis Hopper playing as the sheriff who goes to town with him with that chainsaw. I mean, that bit when you see him in the chainsaw shop and he's like getting these fucking chainsaw blades, and you got the guy that runs the store is like, oh, this guy seems to be interested in chainsaws, and he's swinging these chainsaws like there's a freaking sword on this tree, and I'm just like, Can you imagine some guy walking by and seeing a dude doing that with a chainsaw? He'd be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go past this guy right now." And the crazy thing is, this Dennis Hopper, he did this, but this is also the same year he did Blue Velvet as well. So you had him coming out of doing that. So he was playing a crazy type of character in that movie, and to have him coming in to do this one was just really cool as well. Caroline Williams playing a Stretch. She did a really amazing job with the role that she played in this, and of course the guy that played the guy that she was partnered with, LG. And we got to get to this bit. How the hell did he survive the shit that he went through to make it to the part where he was at in the film? Think about this. Chop Top hammered the fucking shit out of him. Leatherface carves his freaking skin off, and he's still like reviving, like, yeah, I'll help you. And I'm just like, there's no way you should be alive after all that. But somehow he was, just to help Stretch out. And it was just,
bro. I'm not gonna lie. When Leatherface put his face on Stretch's face, I died laughing, bro. That shit was funny.
yeah, I agree. That was just fucking hilarious. And seeing Leatherface doing a kind of a dance duet with Stretch, I'm just like, okay, there's a first. But it was just, that was just crazy. Oh god, we gotta give props also to the set, especially with the new lair that they were hiding in. That looked like a fun house from hell, but that's definitely a fun house I wouldn't have mind checking out if it was actually there just for us to visit, you know? Because it looked fun.
By the way, I just want to say this too. If you watch House of a Thousand Corpses and you watch this movie, Rob Zombie ripped off a lot of shit from this movie for House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm just saying. And listen, Rob Zombie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's a match made in heaven. I'm sorry. I'm not the biggest fan of Rob Zombie as a writer. I think as a director, he's great. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre is right in his fucking wheelhouse. And I think it's a damn shame they haven't come up to him yet to write and direct Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Dude,
if by the way,
Texas Chainsaw, that would be insane, but in a good way.
Oh, and also, Gunnar Hansen did not return, Paul. It was Bill Johnson that played Leatherface.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was Bill Johnson.
Oh, damn! I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Gunnar Hansen doesn't come back until 3D.
Oh, and there goes me thinking, man, I must have missed that bit. But yeah, the guy who played Leatherface on that was pretty good. I've got to give him props for that. Oh, and also we got to the ending, the end of the part two. That bit where he's, you could tell when she was like kind of daring Chopped Up to come at him. You could tell like the madness was starting to take over her, and while she's trying to start the chainsaw up and like getting the backslash, and then that was it. She just lost it at the end. And I thought that was a pretty cool ending.
Which is a recurring theme in this franchise, where the final girl is just descending to madness because of the hell they're put through.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, Paul.
Yep. Let's go to part 3.
All right, and well, unfortunately, part 2 bombed. Fans did not like it, so I believe Dimension Films bought the rights to Texas Chainsaw. New Line. Yes, so thank you. It was New Line that bought the rights to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they figured it was time to go back to the basics, and we get part 3.
No gimmicks, just pure terror. Horror is back to basics. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
Yes, sir. We get to Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, part 3. Now, I will say this. It's a decent sequel. Um, I like the cast. You have Ken Foray in this, a young, then unknown Viggo Mortensen in this.
Yep.
I believe the final girl, what's her name? Kate Moss, I want to say.
I think her name was Kate Hodge.
Kate Hodge, yes. Kate Hodge as the final girl. Then you have the little girl that's actually in Friday the 13th Part 7, the New Blood. You know, young Tina as the little girl here. And I will say is that I think it's okay. It's okay. I definitely like Part 2 better, in my opinion. And the reason why I say it's okay is because this is pretty much a standard paint by numbers 90s slasher film.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's a by the book 90s slasher film. And I think the acting is fine. I think Ken Foray I love Ken Foray as an actor, and I think he's great in this. I think it was nice to finally see him in a lead role for once. I thought the guy who played Leatherface, I can't think of his name right now, but I thought he did fine. I thought he was okay.
His name is Randall Allen Malhoff. He was also, believe it or not, he was also in Hatchet 2.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, he was the dude he was the big bald-headed dude with the shades.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, I thought you could definitely tell they went back to the more sinister, evil version of Leatherface in here. He was intimidating. I will say that. You had this one character, you know, that talk like this, you know, like yeah, how's it going? Like, how's it going? Like, fuck you, mister. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that guy. I know the one. That was played by Tom Everett, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, I fucking hated him.
Yeah, he was a pain in the ass in this movie.
Such a pain in the ass, bro. I want him to die so bad, and I was so glad Kate Hodge did the favors. But yeah, I mean, and I like the heavy metal soundtrack tone to try to go with here. Trying to give that Leatherface likes to listen to heavy metal when he's chasing somebody, which is a nice little character trait.
Well, you think about it, heavy metal music and horror goes hand in hand. I've noticed
this is true. And then we get a new family here as well. Like I said, we have a young up-and-coming Viggo Mortensen. We have like a mother and the little girl who you kind of get a inkling that maybe that's Leatherface's daughter or something. Like they never, but you kind of get like maybe that is. Then you have someone who has a hook for a hand.
Yeah.
Me personally, I kind of take it as after Part 2. But Leatherface must have found some. This is my conspiracy. My theory is that after Part 2, when he realized that the Sora family's dead, I kind of think, that must be his cousins. That's what I personally think. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, there's really nothing much to this version. I mean, the kills were nothing to write home about. Probably say the weakest kills of the franchise.
I would probably say that the kills were pretty tame in this one.
Well, there's a reason why, because this was around the time when MPAA would always get their fucking hands in horror movies, and they would just butcher.
Yeah.
It would just butcher movies left and right, which is why a lot of the kills are off screen and all that stuff. That's MPAA. You know, like, you can't show this, can't show that.
Yeah, and also this came out during the time when, during the 90s when slasher movies were becoming more of they were getting less and less successful, and it got to the point where nobody gave a fuck about slasher movies during that time because they were getting oversaturated. Because remember, in the 80s, we were getting bombarded with slasher movies left, right, and center. And then during the 90s, it just kind of faded into obscurity until Scream showed up.
Until Scream, yes. And then Scream ushered in the second wave of slashers. But that too, like the early 90s was not a good time for slasher movies. And this came out in 91, was it?
1990 it came out.
1990.
Yeah. But the UK never got it released until early 2000 when it came on DVD. So it was effectively banned over here. They never gave it an age rating.
Bro, I never knew this movie existed until one night I was at home, and then this is when I had the cable box where I had all the channels, and it came on Showtime at one point in time, and I watched. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they made a third one, but yeah, this movie, it was hard to find for a while, and clearly this movie they made this movie to make sequels. Just looking at the end, like they thought this would be the beginning of you could kind of say this was kind of like the first reboot that they tried to do, but yeah. But yeah, Ken Foray is good. Like why don't you fucking leave us alone? We get hungry. Ever heard of pizza?
That's fucking that line got me laughing when I heard that exchange between those two, because he wasn't expecting that kind of dialogue to hit like that.
Yes, and like I like liver and onions. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I ain't gonna lie, I kind of had a little bit of a crush on Kay Hodge. I was like, where the fuck has she been lately? I'm sorry. I thought her acting crazy was actually kind of sexy, but that's just me. But yeah, it was blah. What'd you think, Paul?
Well, I remember, like I said, I didn't get to see this one until the early 2000s, but when I did see it, I kind of liked the direction they were trying to go back to basics. Nothing wrong with going back to basics, but it just, again, it felt tame because the censors got their hands on it, and like I said, it came out during the time when slasher movies nobody gave a fuck about. But in terms of the film, I did find some bits on there that I thought was okay, but in terms of the grand scheme of things of the series, I didn't feel like it was the best one in the series. It's not the worst one in the series, but I would probably put it somewhere maybe below the Leatherface movie one, the one that came out later on, but it was all right. I mean, the guy that played Leatherface was an intimidating son of a bitch. Nothing wrong with that. Viggo Mortensen, who played
Tex, was it?
Yeah, he played as Tex, or Edward Tex Sawyer. He did pretty good. I was actually surprised that he was actually in that movie when I first heard about that the first time. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
You could definitely see you could definitely see in his performance. You could definitely see, you could definitely see why he became what he became later on.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you see it in this movie.
Yeah, you could definitely see it because at first you wouldn't think he was part of the Sawyer family because he looked so normal. But then later on, when you finally see the reveal of it, it was like, oh damn, this guy really has got some fucked up issues going on. And Ken Foray.
Yeah, pause what I'm about to say. I'm just letting y'all know because I know how y'all motherfuckers are. Okay, pause. He was definitely out the Sawyer family. He's definitely the most handsome one in the family, which makes it even more scary.
Yeah, till he ended up getting third-degree burns.
Yep.
You're toast, fuck. But yeah, Ken Foray, he was pretty good in this film too. And I mean, I've seen some of the films he's been in over the years. Of course, like Dawn of the Dead, From Beyond, Devil's Rejects. There's just to name some of the horror movies.
I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
Yeah, Halloween remake. He was actually good in that one too. But yeah, he's a damn good actor. When you give him the right roles to do, he can pull it off. And I really did believe he pulled it off pretty good in this one. Oh, and another interesting thing too about this Texas Chainsaw, there were two versions of this film. You had the cut version and you had the uncut version. And there was also, I think there was a bit where it was a different ending. So like the bit where you saw Ken Foray fighting Leatherface, the original part of that was he actually did kill him. Like Leatherface actually did kill the guy.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. But they brought it back. And the ending was a little different too. But the other thing I got to point out as well, I mean, this may be a bit of a minor note, but that chainsaw that Leatherface had was pretty fucking nice.
It was nice. And how did you like Leatherface walking with the chainsaw instead of normally running?
I'm not too sure what to make of that one because I'm so used to seeing Leatherface literally gunning after people, like literally chasing them down. And to see him with the leg brace and he's just going on a limp, technically, I mean, I could kind of see what they were trying to do with that, trying to, I guess, give people a bit of a chance to get away from him. But you kind of take away the intimidation and scare factor of him a little bit when you take away his ability to run after you. Because I think, in my opinion, the scariest villains are the ones that's going to fucking run after you. Why do you think people get so shit terrified when Ghostface is literally chasing somebody down? Because he's not wasting any time. He's fucking gunning for you.
And people forget. And people forget. People forget. Jason used to run.
Yeah. Once upon a time. Friday the 13th, part 2.
2, 3, and 4.
And the remake one as well. Don't forget that.
Yes, and the remake. Yeah, people have forgotten that he used to run after people, which was terrifying.
Well, he was human before he had a machete take him in the face.
Another thing people forget. Yeah,
because I mean, he was human in the first 3 movies he was in, and then part 6 he became this unstoppable zombie bit that we all know him as.
Yes.
Not there's anything wrong with that, because you got to find a way to keep him intimidating. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword, because when Jason became this unstoppable killer machine, you kind of take away the fact that this guy can feel pain as vulnerable, make him unstoppable. Nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword for some people. So that's why I reckon that's why they went to basics with the whole reboot that they did for him.
I'm sorry. It's funny you brought that up, because one of the funniest moments of part 3 is when Jason gets hurt and you hear him groaning in pain. Oh!
Yeah, he just like, oh, what? It's like, oh, okay.
It's funny. It's just funny to me.
There's also that bit as well when you see him coming out the door and she just fucking blasts him with that 2x4 and she jumps over. Yeah, put my teeth back in. It's almost like you can hear him going, "Hey!" while he's trying to grab her. Hey. Like what?
Bro, when it's on part 3, when he puts the rope around his neck and then she pushes him off the balcony, and you hear him go,
yeah. And of course, when he gets the action head, it's like, like, huh? Okay. Oh, and that's the in part 2 where he gets booted in the nuts, and you can hear him going, like,
Bro, when I first, because I mean, not to get off subject, but when I first saw the Friday films, all I knew was Zombie Jason, because that's the one they popularized. So when I watched the earlier films, I hear him like in pain. It was like, what the fuck is that? And then, like,
it's Jason. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Paul. Yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I was back to before I get into Texas Chainsaw. I was confused about it too, because my first Friday the 13th was part 6. So but yeah. Back on point. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Again, it's not the best one, but I wouldn't consider it the worst one either. For me, it would be somewhere in between some of the later films in the list of films that we've seen over the years. But I can't fault them for trying. It's just that it had the worst misfortune of coming out around the time where slasher movies nobody was giving a fuck about. So it suffered in terms of that, and also suffered in terms of those kind of elements too, which is a shame because if it came out a bit sooner, it probably would have been a bit more popular with people. But again, it's one of the weaker ones in the series, but it's not completely terrible, unlike the next one we're going to talk about later on. Yeesh.
And I just want to say before I move on, if we can find, if Kate Hyde has a Twitter or Instagram, let me know, please, because I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro. I watched it again. I was like, damn, I forgot how cute she was. All right, moving on. All right. Like, come on, you fucker! I'm like, oh, okay, I'll definitely chase you. All right. All right. Now, this is the one this is one of the ones I'm actually looking forward to covering. And this is definitely one of the more controversial ones of the franchise. But yeah.
The American legend returns to bring you back to the cutting edge of terror.
Welcome to my world. That's all you got, huh? Touch me. If you're gonna kill me, then do it.
Matthew McConaughey of A Time to Kill. Renee Zellweger of Jerry Maguire.
Are you having fun yet?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Next Generation. If looks could kill, he wouldn't need a chainsaw.
No! Fuck that!
Fucking kill me already. Kill me already. I'm just going to use the bathroom to puke a minute. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Let me get my positives out the way. I'm gonna get my positives out the way. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation was the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre I've ever watched. It was like a Saturday night. I was about 6, 7 years old. And like I said in the podcast, I had those video boxes where I had the HBOs and the Stars and all that stuff. And on HBO, Texas Chainsaw Massacre New Beginning showed up. And even back then, I was a horror guy. So like, oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, this sounds interesting. Oh, so this has Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger in this. Okay, I'm going to check this out. I watched it.
Why?
Okay. All right. First of all, for one, the draw of this movie is these two guys. Well, these two people. All right. They're the draws. All right. This was right around the time. Now, they filmed this movie in 1994, 95-ish, I want to say. But they shelved it. Now keep in mind, before this movie was released in theaters, A Time to Kill came out. And which would you say was Matthew McConaughey's, like, one of his real true breakout roles. Jerry Maguire came out, which was Renee Zellweger's breakout role.
Yep.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: New Beginning did not come out yet. So when they tried to release it, Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey was like, hey, can I just, hold off on that. Because they knew if this movie came out before they reached the superstar that they reached to, they would have no careers. So they said, Matthew McConaughey fought tooth and nail to tell them, don't fucking release this movie yet. So in 1997, 2 years after filming this movie, they finally released it, and I will say that this is my opinion, the shittiest Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. Well, there's 3D. It's one of the shittiest. And one of the biggest reasons why it's one of the shittiest is because there's really no story. You really don't have a clue what the fuck is going on. In part 3, you had an idea. Part 2, you had an idea. Part 1, you had an idea. Here, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You don't know if it's either a reboot or a sequel. You don't know if this is a remake or a sequel. Because they copy so many fucking shit from the first film, but try to do its own thing. You got some of the most dumbass characters I've ever seen in horror movie history.
This was just, I'm going to say it. This one was a straight up clusterfuck of the worst order, man.
Oh, right from jump. Like, okay, this is one of the dialogue. He said, if you don't have sex with me, he said, I'll get prostate cancer. Like, bro, come on. No, okay, now listen. Listen. Oh, okay. Now, I get it. Okay, back in the 90s. Okay, I was young, but I've seen what the 90s did, what guys did. Okay, that was back in the time when dudes had to lie to get sex and all that stuff. We don't do that now because we value ourselves highly. But back then, yeah, dudes used to lie to get sex. You know, but yeah, this dude don't have something. I'll get prostate cancer. And there's nobody likable. The only person that's likable is Renee Zellweger. Because she has a charm to her. You can see why she became the star that she would later become. The cast is fucking terrible. Like the girl who's the girlfriend to this complete douchebag is a fucking airhead. It's like they run over somebody and her dialogue is he dead? Is he dead? Did he die? I'm like, oh my goodness. And then you fucking
It's this bad, man. This whole film was bad.
And Leatherface. Leatherface in this movie.
Played by
now,
Robert.
People Robert who?
Robert Jacks is the guy that played Leatherface.
Now, people want to talk shit about Leatherface in part 2, talking about how, oh, he's turned into a bitch, turned into a lovesick bitch, comedic joke.
They never saw this one.
No, they never saw this one. Bro, the first thing you see Leatherface doing is crying like a bitch. Like, all he's doing is screaming and crying like a bitch. Now, in the first film, he had his moments where he'd be scared of his brothers, but he never acted like a bitch.
No, like this was just like, what were they thinking doing this with Leatherface? Like, you go from intimidating as fuck to comedy to back to basics, and you turn him into this, and I'm just sitting there like, God, I want to stab my fucking eyeballs out. It was so damn terrible when I saw how he looked on this. And then they try to reuse the same beats, by putting the girl on the hook, hitting the dude with the sledgehammer. The whole chase scene when Renee Zellweger and Leatherface is basically the same damn chase scene from Sally and Leatherface in the first film. Yeah. Now, the one saving grace. Actually, there's two saving graces. Vilma's girlfriend, who I thought was hot. Who was? Have you ever seen Varsity Blues? I think I might have a long time ago. Name rings a bell.
She was the teacher / stripper in the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
I might know the one now.
Yeah. So, but really honestly, like, the one saving grace in this movie is then up and comer Matthew McConaughey, who plays Vilmer. Um, I will say this: this man single-handedly can't carries the film. The only time the movie is entertaining is when he's on screen. From jump, he's entertaining. Because again, like they run over a kid and Matthew McConaughey shows up and it's a funny fucking scene where he's like he's dead. Oh no, he's not. He just talked. Oh, is that right? Then he fucking just snaps his neck and goes, "Well, he's dead now."
Yeah.
He said, what are you gonna do to me? He said, "First, I'm gonna kill you. Ain't no fucking biggie," And and then, by the way, this kid was a fucking dumbass. Like, this man is running in a road where he could run into the goddamn woods, but he keeps running straight. And then he's like, "Please, sir, you're scaring me." I'm like, "Oh, I could kill him." And he does kill him, and it's very satisfying. Yeah, it is very satisfying where he's fucking listening to the heavy metal music, like running him over and over again. He has the best scenes in the movie. Like he has like the scene I got on the screen here. When he's like, "I got a mind to slit your goddamn throat. I'll give you kind of 10 to tell you why I shouldn't. 9-8, don't be late." That Matthew McConaughey in this film. This performance deserves to be in a better movie. Like if this was another movie, if it was like a standalone film, and I'm sorry to steal your thing, Paul, because you said this, but if this was a movie just strictly about his character and he was like the killer in this film, I think it'd be a much better film.
Yeah,
It'd be a much better film. But yeah, and then you got the stupid shit of Renee Zellweger escaping the house 4-5 different times, only finding herself to get caught every single time. Then you got the airhead girlfriend who doesn't fucking die. And
yeah, like how did that happen?
Then you got the Men in Black, or I guess the what is it, the Illuminati? Is that who it's supposed to be?
What was their purpose in this movie?
Got 3 motherfucking nipple rings. Look at Renee Zellweger, and he's like, "It's your job to unleash horror. Show these kids horror. Do you understand?" And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then you get the ending where Matthew McConaughey finally kills the airhead, by using his mechanical leg.
Yeah.
Goes crazy, cuts himself, and
a fucking plane out of nowhere.
The fucking crop duster comes out of nowhere, but like it killed Matthew McConaughey for no reason. Like, did it know what was going on?
Yeah.
And then they completely copy the ending of the first film with Leatherface just going crazy with the chainsaw. Then we get a cameo. Of Marilyn Burns, who comes back as Sally, because when Renee's always in the hospital, you see Marilyn Burns in the gurney just staring at her, which I guess is supposed to tell you this movie takes place after the events of the first film. I guess. I don't fucking know. This movie's garbage, bro. Like, it's garbage. Yeah. And Kim, what's his last name?
Which one?
Kim Hanley or something like that?
Yeah, Kim Henkel.
Kim Henkel, who helped write the first film. I think this motherfucker personally sabotaged the movie on purpose. I personally think he went into this trying to sabotage the movie, trying to make an example like stop making sequels. It will never be good as the first film. Okay, you don't want to stop making a sequel? Or you're gonna let me direct this? Well, I'm gonna fuck this movie up. And he tried his damnness, and you can say he succeeded, because we didn't see another fucking Texas Chainsaw film until 2003. So, so yeah, folks, if you're gonna watch this movie for anything, just look up Matthew McConaughey scenes.
Where do I begin?
Oh, first of all, before you start, what's your favorite Matthew McConaughey scene?
Probably the one where he's running that guy over constantly, because I just got a big laugh out of that one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and probably the scene that you got on there as well too. That would be another good scene.
Pop goes the weasel. My favorite scene. Of course, it's him. Getting her with the knife. This motherfucker. He goes, "Welcome to my world," and he just fucking smacks Renee Zellweger to wake her up, bro. Like,
blast someone,
And then he tried to kill his girlfriend with his foot. He's like, "And nobody asked you a fucking thing." I swear, Matthew McConaughey is the only reason to watch this movie. And it kind of goes to show you how Matthew McConaughey is, because it goes to show you that he's those type of actors that no matter how shitty the movie is, that he will give his all. Like, he will dive deep into a character. He will give his all. And credits Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. When they actually talk about filming this film, normally you would think, because they're high-profile actors, Matthew McConaughey's a fucking Oscar award winner.
Yep.
You would think they would try to shy away from, acknowledging, their horror roots. But he speaks glowingly about it. He said he had a great time doing it. Well, which you could tell Matthew McConaughey had fun with the role. Renee Zellweger, speaks glowingly. She's grateful because this was the movie that really got her start in Hollywood. So it's really cool. I really like that, when big time celebrities, because there's a lot of them that actually started out in horror films, actually acknowledge it. I mean, for fuck's sakes, Kevin Bacon finally started acknowledging that his first film was Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Paul Rudd was Halloween: The Curse.
Yep.
And
that's right.
But he acknowledges it. He openly acknowledges it. Hell, so much so, I think Blumhouse said that when they tried to fill the Tommy Doyle character, they actually called up Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd was actually interested, but he couldn't do it because he had to do Ghostbusters. So yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. Jamie Lee Curtis finally acknowledging her horror roots. Which that's another topic in itself. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but fucking hypocrite sometimes. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: New Generation, outside Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, it's fucking garbage. And what they did to Leatherface was atrocious, and it's probably the most bitch made version you'll possibly see in this franchise.
Oh yeah, definitely on that one. Well, for me, outside of Matthew McConaughey's and Renee Zellweger's performance, they're the two highlights of the film. But outside of that, this whole movie was just a fucking hot mess. It was just terrible. Me and one of my friends was talking about this. We even came down to the conclusion that maybe Kim Henkel probably sabotaged the movie just to stop them from making anymore, or he was trying to make a parody out of slash movies. Who knows? Whatever that plan was, it fucking kind of backfired in a really bad way, because not only did this become one of the worst, well, actually, this is the worst movie in the Texas Chainsaw series, but it was just, everything about it was just a clusterfuck. Even the budget was like $600,000, which then again, you can do quite a bit with that anyway for this kind of film. But just everything about it, the acting from the other cast members was just bad. Leatherface, played by Robert Jacks, like, what the fuck were they thinking doing what they were doing with Leatherface? Just turning him into a straight up bitch. Just the way his character was acting, and the fact that he was just an absolute mess. And like, I was just, well, I remember when I first watched it, I was like thinking to myself, this can't be Texas Chainsaw, can it? Like, there's no way they could have got away with doing this kind of shit with it. But no, they ended up doing it, and it just
Wait, Paul, wait. No, wait. If I remember correctly, did Leatherface even kill anybody in this movie?
No, I don't think he did. If I recall correctly, I don't think he killed a single person.
No, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. When he killed the asshole boyfriend with the sledgehammer.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, that's so technically then he only managed to pull off one kill in this movie. That's it. 6 people die in this movie, and Leatherface only took out 1. That says quite a bit there, doesn't it? And I was just reading some of the stuff about the Leatherface character, and it just says here, I'm going to read what it says on Wikipedia here, guys. It says here, another element noted by critics and film scholars at the film's overall reference to Leatherface's character is kind of compared him to like a tortured drag queen. So that kind of
which I'm okay with that. But you can't. But you can't. But here's my thing. You have to show a progression of him doing that. You can't just throw him in a dress and go, here you go. You have to show as the movie progresses why he would do that. You know, like say at least show a hint that, you know, he has an infatuation with his mother or something. He wants to be his mother or something. You just don't throw him in a fucking dress and just be like, well, there you go. Like, no.
Yeah. There was no explanation. There was no progression to how it happened. It was just one scene, bang, there it is. And we were just like, what? You just drop it on people out of nowhere. But if you had an explanation and a reason behind why he was doing it, people wouldn't be so, pissed about it or upset about them doing that to this character. But that's what happened. But to like I said, to sum up this movie, man, it was just terrible. This is the kind of movie where I wish I never watched it. After watching it, I just wanted to just gouge my fucking eyeballs out. It was that bad, dude. And one of my other mates watched it. He's just like, I was like, what did you think of it then? He goes, can I reference a quote from Die Hard 4? I said, well, go ahead. He said, watching this is as bad as having a pine cone shoved up his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And it's really unfortunate because you would think, like going into this movie, you say, oh, Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, like you'd think it'll be like some Oscar-worthy type movie. Not even the slightest. I think that thank God bless Matthew McConaughey, because I would not have made it without him.
Yeah.
Wilbur, get that bitch! Go!
You may not. I don't know if you realize this also, but Marilyn Burns wasn't the only person who did a cameo in this film. Paul A. Patton was it. The one that was dragging Marilyn in the gurney. That was the dude in the wheelchair. And the radio DJ from part 2, I think, was next to Renée Zellweger's character at the end of it when they were in the hospital. But John Duggan was in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So some of the guys from the original films had their little uncredited cameo appearances in this movie. And also, this was the final movie in the original series before we ended up leading up to where we are 10 years later, almost 10 years later since this one.
If that was the guy to play Franklin, I would hope Leatherface. I'm sorry, I fucking hated the Franklin character. I'm sorry, bro. Bro, when Leatherface killed him, I was so satisfied, bro. Which, by the way, to this very day, that scene still scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, that fucking poor dude in the chains on the wheelchair. This is the thing about the original. I forgot to mention this. On the original, it was like you hardly saw any gore, But what you witnessed was shocking as hell, dude.
You didn't need to see the gore. You didn't need to see it.
It was just let your imagination run wild, and that's what made it so effective.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of movies that were effective, the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Here we
go. First things first, I want to say is that this was around the time when horror movie remakes was like starting to become a thing. And in that remake era of horror movies, like the mid to late 2000s, this is definitely one of the better ones. It doesn't exactly copy the original. It does its own thing, but still very respectful to the 74 version. You kind of get the same beats of the 74 film, but they switched it up a little bit. They pick up a hitchhiker. Only difference was it's a survivor from a previous attack. You get the whole, you get the Sawyer house. You do get the, it's done in a different way, but you do get the sledgehammer scene with the boyfriend, him Leatherface, shutting the door, that iconic moment. And Andrew, I can never pronounce his last name. Andrew Bernowski. Yes. I could say now I disagree when he calls himself the greatest person to ever play Leatherface. I disagree with him on that, but I could definitely say he's probably the second best to play the character. Yeah, he's definitely the second best. He's very intimidating, very menacing. The first time you see Leatherface coming out with the chainsaw is still giving me goosebumps this very day. The late great Arlie Ermey plays Sheriff Hoyt. Now, granted, I like Arlie Ermey a lot.
Yeah.
I know what I was about to say, probably blasphemous, but every time I see him play a dickhead or an asshole in a movie, I think of Full Metal Jacket. It's like, to me,
I was about to say the same thing too.
Yeah, he's basically playing the same character from Full Metal Jacket, which I'm like, if that's the case, I'd rather watch him in Full Metal Jacket. I mean, don't get me wrong, he delivers a great performance in this and in the prequel, but it's the same character as he was in Full Metal Jacket. So I couldn't really get into it, but other than that, I'm not really interested in the family that much. The old man in the wheelchair, the fat lady, my.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. The skinny woman that stole the baby didn't really care for the family that much. Probably the most least interesting of the Sawyer / Hewitt family.
There wasn't a lot going on for those other characters, except for maybe Leatherface and Hoyt. They're the ones that had the most going on for them in there.
Yeah. And I will say Leatherface is a highlight. And who else I would say is a highlight? This lady right here.
Yeah.
Listen. Outside the fact she's a very good-looking woman, I really did enjoy her character. I could say outside of she is definitely one of the best final girls. I could say probably the best final girl in this franchise.
I completely agree with that completely.
Because if you look at all throughout these movies, the one person that actually did the most damage to Leatherface was Jessica Biel's character. She fucking chopped his arm off.
I know.
And
she did that. I couldn't believe she did that when I saw it.
I was shocked. I was not expecting that. And I thought Jessica Biel gives a really strong performance. I really enjoyed her performance. I actually liked. I thought for the most part the cast, the kids, they did what they had to do. One of the more creepier moments of the film is when Leatherface is attacking Jessica Biel and the other chick who was in Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Don't get me started on that piece of shit. And he kills the girl that was in Book of Shadows, and he turns around and he's wearing her boyfriend's face, and he's looking back at her.
Shit,
Definitely one of the more creepier moments of the movie. It's a beautifully shot film. Like they recreate the moment where, we're looking at the girl almost ass up and she's walking towards the house, the same shot from the first film.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, the guy they had to do the cinematography was the guy who did the original film, Daniel Pearl.
Makes sense. The Hoyt house was definitely played a character as well in the movie. Very, very foreboding, intimidating. And like I said, Jessica Biel, out of anybody in the final girl, she got the most accomplished. Like she fucks up Arlie Ermey by running him over numerous times. She saves the baby that she says that the two Laces, clearly part of the family, stole the baby. She saved the baby, and she escapes Leatherface. Like, Leatherface, he fucks up his own leg and has no arm. So he's pretty useless at this point. He survives, but not nearly as effective as he once was. And yeah, man, I really dug this remake. It didn't piss me off. It was respectful to the first film while doing its own thing. A really strong female lead. Leatherface was fantastic. Arlie Ermey, even though he's playing the same character from Full Metal Jacket, was okay. Didn't care much about the family. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I definitely enjoyed this one. This is definitely one of the better Chainsaw films, and definitely a step up from 4, 3, and I was satisfied with this. I was satisfied. Paul?
Yeah, I remember, like I said, I first knew about this when I was watching Freddy vs. Jason in the cinema, and they showed the trailer for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I remember when people saw that trailer, people had goosebumps. I had goosebumps sticking out of my arms when I watched that. And I just said, right, I have to go fucking see this. So going into the film, my expectations were pretty high after seeing that trailer. And the movie did not disappoint for me. It delivered everything that I was expecting to see out of this. It went back to the basics of how the original one was. It had that same raw grittiness. And plus also they had the original photographer back on board to do the camera work for this film. And I loved how bleak and saturated the color schemes were in the film itself. It had that documentary-ish feel that you still had, even with new cameras. But the acting was pretty damn good too. Jessica Biel playing as the main character, she was great in that. Andrew playing Leatherface, without a doubt, probably the most intimidating son of a bitch since Gunnar Hansen in there. I mean, he fucking delivered in that. And it's not hard to see why, because the guy was a former bodybuilder as well. So he delivered on that. And I also loved the look that Leatherface had in this one. It was like, if you look at the costume setup he had, it looked like he's been through a lot of wars, especially with the way it looked all aged and just dirty and just grimy as fuck. And even with the wrist straps he had on his arms, I'm guessing to keep himself stiff with his chainsaw movements. just everything about that was just intimidating. And also, like you said, with that creepy moment where he's got that the girl's boyfriend's mask on him for his face, and I'm watching that thinking, oh my god, that is just fucking creepy as shit. Lee Ermey playing a Sheriff Hoyt, yeah, okay, playing the same character, I guess, over and over again. But then again, he was a former military guy himself.
Yeah.
And he was a former drill sergeant, so he can only play it the way he would do it. And I guess keeping it that way for a lot of people, it was intimidating. And also with some of the other actors in it, like the bit when he's interrogating that poor dude in the van and he's making him put the gun in his mouth. The actor who was doing that, to his credit, he actually literally physically made himself vomit when he had that gun in his mouth. And each time he progressively doing that. And I think also another moment that really set the tone perfectly was when they picked up that hitchhiker lady who was a previous victim, and she just blasts herself. And I just love how that camera in one shot zooms out and it comes out from her mouth to the back of her head. That was a really cool shot. But everything else about the film was just, for me, it checked out all the boxes. It delivered what I wanted. And it definitely, to me, if I have to, like I said, if I have to say which is my top ones, the first original two and this one would be up there in my top favorites. And to my knowledge, I think this is also the only one in the series that grossed over 100 million at the box office. And like you said, this was the movie that started the whole remake trend, because it was Platinum Dunes. You know, they ended up making films like the Amityville Horror, The Hitcher, the Friday the 13th remake, which, interestingly enough, the guy who directed this film directed the remake of Friday the 13th 6 years after this one.
Yeah, this is a better movie.
Yeah, definitely was the better movie of the remakes of what he's done. But all in all, this was definitely a worthy entry to the series. Even if it's a remake, it was a damn good one. And you don't get a lot of movies that get remade that you can just sit back and say, you know what, this was actually fucking impressive. And I've seen plenty of remakes, and there are some that I like, and there are some that I'm just kind of like, whatever. This one is one of my favorites that they remade.
Quick question. Best remake of a movie ever. Go.
Fucking hell, that's a long list.
I got two. I got two I can name on my head right now.
I'll name mine after you guys. Go for it.
It's a tie between The Fly and The Thing.
Oh shit. You got me on that one. All right, for me then, my favorite remakes, and some of these you might agree with, some of them you might not, but The Fly, 1986, no doubt. The Thing, absolutely. This Texas Chainsaw movie would be another one that I enjoyed. The 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake I enjoyed.
I love that movie. Sorry, you're good so far?
Let me think, because there's so many I've watched. The remake of Record, Quarantine, was okay. My Bloody Valentine was fun. I actually enjoyed that. Mother's Day, the 2012 remake, was cool.
I haven't yet to see that.
It's definitely worth watching. I mean, if you compare the original Mother's Day, which was a Trauma-made movie, and you put it to this one was definitely the better one of the two. The I Spit on Your Grave remake I enjoyed. It was a lot more shocking than the original, in my opinion. What was that other remake I saw I watched? I didn't mind the Friday the 13th remake. That was cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Yep. What was the name of this other one? Like I said, there's so many that I've seen. You know, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually do have somewhat of a soft spot for the remake of The Hitcher. I didn't mind that one. But that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I disagree.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I knew it was going to.
Yeah, that you was doing so good, Paul, and then you said The Hitcher. I'm like,
Yeah. Like I said, there are so many remakes I've watched over the years, and there's just a lot. You know, you're probably gonna kill me for this, but I actually didn't mind Halloween. I'm not saying it's the best, but it was okay. But that's me.
I don't remember hating that movie. I just thought that if the Halloween Michael Myers character was taken away, I think it would have been a really good movie.
Yeah, we can agree on that one. I'm trying to think of another one. There's so many. Oh, it would have to be a different. It would have to be a whole different topic for another time, man. Because there's so.
Oh,
many
for sure.
We can definitely do that.
All right. So moving on. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 was a major success, like Paul said, and here's a problem. I don't think they set this up for a sequel because, like I said, his fucking arm is chopped off.
Yeah, like where you gonna go from there?
Where are you gonna go with from there? And yeah, Arlie Ermy died. So you're like, oh shit, we can't make a sequel. So you do one of the things that I hate the most in horror movies, and that is a prequel. And then we get Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. Now, Paul, me, you're gonna disagree on this. I think this is the first one we actually disagree on. I'm gonna say it. I did not like this movie, and the reason why I did not like this movie, because I thought it was pointless and unnecessary. We get to learn how Leatherface gets. We get to learn that he worked at the slaughterhouse. We get to learn how he got the chainsaw. We get to watch him make his first mask, even though we saw him doing. We saw him do it in part 3. In the opening credits, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we already saw him do it already. We get to learn about how Arlie Ermy got the sheriff's outfit. Okay. We get to see Leatherface kill his first victims. Cool, whatever. I just thought, man, that this was unneeded and unnecessary and an answer question that we did not need to know. Arlie Ermy, once again, playing the character from Full Metal Jacket. Andrew, intimidating, yes. I could say probably even more scary in this one than he was in the remake. But and here's the thing. The reason why I say I don't like prequels is because you can't feel anything for the characters because you know they're gonna die.
Yeah, you know they're gonna be done. So you know they're gonna be like throwaway characters. But I guess for some people, they want to kind of root for them, even though they know they're dead. I guess that's for some people, maybe.
Yeah, you know, and like now, I think it could have had a cool storyline, because it's the story about this Vietnam vet and his girlfriend going on a trip with his little brother, who he wants to take to Vietnam with him, with his girlfriend, but he doesn't want to go to Vietnam. He wants to go to Mexico with his girlfriend. I think you could have had something here, like a Vietnam vet going against the Sawyer family. I think you could have done something with that. But it didn't go anywhere. Like Leatherface, like Arlie Ermy just tortures and torments the shit out of him, which he's great at. I'll give him, he is great. When it comes to being a complete asshole dickhead, Arlie Ermy was one of the best. So rest in peace, Arlie Ermy. But the main brother, he doesn't get to show his skills. He doesn't really get to show, his veteran skills. He gets bitched out by Arlie Ermy, and he gets fucking tortured by Leatherface, and that's it. So I'm like, I thought that was a wasted opportunity. Even though it has some good gore into it, the scene when when Leatherface kills his boss with the hammer.
He fucking
the scene
that one.
And the scene where he kills the biker, cuts him in half with the chainsaw. It's some good gore. I mean, I'll give it that. Like I said, Andrew is fucking fantastic in the role as Leatherface, but I just thought It was unnecessary. You can't feel for the character, you can't root for the characters. Oh, and I thought the ending was bullshit. I thought it was a bullshit ending because I don't give a fuck if I spoil it. The movie's been out for over a decade. So
yeah, go for it.
So the younger brother that's still alive, he distracts Leatherface long enough. He gets killed, but he distracts Leatherface. Jordana Brewster, who was known for the Fast Furious films, another good-looking woman. She runs into run into a car. Keep in mind, Leatherface was inside the slaughterhouse. Jordana Brewster's character is way ahead of Leatherface. Okay, follow me here.
Right.
She's driving. She sees the cops ahead of the road. This movie is trying to tell me that Jordana Brewster could not see how tall is Andrew? Like 6'5"? You said?
He's a big dude, about 6'5", 6'6", probably about the 275 region in weight.
So she could not see a 6'5", 270-pound guy with a fucking chainsaw in the back seat. And like, think about this, okay? He has to get up, maneuver the chainsaw in between his legs, and then have to crank the chainsaw, which he got once, and he saws her behind the car seat. I thought that was the most bullshit way. That is the most stereotypical slasher shit. And there was an alternate ending where it was a little bit more plausible, where he gets up, he stabs her with an ice pick. Okay, that's more plausible. But again, Paul, if I'm in a car and I deserve to die if I don't see a 6'5", 275 motherfucker. I don't even have to look behind me. I can just sense it. And
I wouldn't even be in that car, period. If I saw like the slightest movement before I got, I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'm running. See you later.
Yeah, man. I'm just like, out of all the ways for Leatherface to kill the final victim, there could have been a better way to do it. I just thought that was lazy, cheap, and slasher 101. And I thought from a physics standpoint with the chainsaw, this shit didn't make no sense. And I get, Leatherface is supposed to win because it's the prequel, but and then we get the final shot of him walking home with the chainsaw. Like, yeah, what the fuck ever. I didn't like this movie. I thought it was unneeded, unnecessary. I didn't need to know how he got the chainsaw. I didn't need to see him kill his first victim. I didn't need to see him make his first mask. We learned how Arthur lost his teeth because in the remake, he takes his teeth out. We just had to know how he got his teeth. I don't know. We got another goddamn dinner scene.
I know. That's the thing. That's this Texas Chainsaw movie you're gonna see a lot of. Is the fucking dinner table scene.
The dinner table scene, like not everybody could capture the spirit of Marilyn Burns, and not everybody could do it. Okay, but yeah, Paul, I know you liked it. Me, I throw this shit in the trash, unnecessary. Yeah, but tell me your thoughts, Paul.
All right. Well, for me, when I first knew about this happening at the time, I was curious as hell to see it. This is when I first saw it, like 15 years ago. So watching it, I at the time enjoyed it, and I was curious to know how that stuff worked out and how that all came together with everything. I did enjoy the performances that was there by Arlie Ermey. Andrew coming back to do Leatherface was pretty cool. I just like the different spin that they try to do by trying to explain an origin story. I think that was the reason why I was interested in it in the beginning, is because I wanted to learn a little more about the origins of it. And we may not have got that in the original films, but we definitely got it in that prequel to some extent. So at the time of watching it, yeah, you could say I liked it. Looking at it now, I still like it, but I can see some of the errors that was wrong with it that we didn't need to have or it shouldn't have had. Like you mentioned with the car. Back then, I didn't give a fuck. But looking at it now, when I watched it again, I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, there's no way you should have not noticed a big fucking dude in the back seat. If you didn't notice that, then, yeah, you deserve to get your fucking chainsaw through your chest and whatnot. But, yeah, there were some things we didn't need to know, like the whole thing with the teeth and everything. But again, there were still moments in the film that I did enjoy. The gore definitely something you can come back to. If you have the unrated version, which I had on DVD, which I still do somewhere, that chainsaw scene where that guy with the biker gets fucking killed, you actually see a little more of that happening. Because if you watch the cinema version, after the chainsaw goes through, you don't see a little bit of damage. But on the unrated version, you see that wound, that damage was fucking revealing as hell. Like, that was pretty fucked up. So there were, like I said, there were moments that I did like about it, but now I kind of look at it differently, where with some of the bits that we were pointed out. Absolutely. Did I feel looking back at it now, do I feel like there's a need for that prequel to happen? Kind of yes and no. But back then it was just like, yeah, I needed to see it. But it's not the worst one for me, but it could have been a lot better if they fought through it a little bit better. Oh, and also the reason why this prequel happened was, from what I'm reading, New Line Cinema had to pay $3.1 million more than expected in order to keep the franchise after Dimension Films tried to put a shitload of money in front of them to it. So Dimension was going to buy this off them, so they had to scramble fast in keeping the franchise. So that's why they did that. If they didn't chop Leatherface's arm off, we would have got a pretty decent sequel out of this. But in terms of the prequel side of things, like I said, some people may like it, some people don't. I'm kind of 50-50 with it now, but back then, I enjoyed the fuck out of it.
I will say that this next movie we're talking about, I'm probably going to have to forgive me.
Nah, don't hold back. Go for it.
All right, cool. Now, this movie, even though I consider it unnecessary, it does have some things going for it. Like, with the gore, some of the acting performances, the remake, good. Part 4, I at least have Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. Part 3, I have Ken Foray and Viggo Mortensen and Kay Hodge sexy ass. Part 2, I got Bill Moseley and Leatherface and Dennis Hopper. And then I got 1. Part 1. So, Paul, this next film, fuck Part 2, fuck Part 3, fuck Part 4, hell, fuck the remakes. We are gonna go back to the very beginning, and ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get the true sequel to the 1974 film, Texas Chainsaw 3D, or as I like to call it, 3 Dicks. Now, okay, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I did not pay a single solitary cent to see this movie. I once again had my ways of seeing movies that was in the theaters back then. I watched it, and to say I was pissed off was an understatement. This is the first chance I'm going to actually piss me the fuck off. All right, so number 1, I will say this. It was cool to see Bill Moseley again. It was cool to see Gunnar Hansen. It was cool to see Marilyn Burns again. Paul, who are the fuck are those other random people that were in the house when the police come to raid the house?
I have no idea. I'm trying to look it up right now.
If I remember correctly, Paul, it was just Leatherface, the cook, and Hitchhiker, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Where are these other mystery bitches come from?
I have no idea, dude. They were just there, I guess, just to be there.
And one of them was Gunnar Hansen.
Mm-hmm. That's right. He was Boss Sawyer.
And what ended up fucking baby? I'm just like, oh, all right. Okay. All right. So I hate this fucking movie with a passion. I think from a storytelling standpoint, it's fucking terrible. The prequel, at least there was a story behind that made sense. This, okay, so this takes place around 1974. This takes place 20 years after. So this shit should be set in the 90s. But no, it's set in present fucking day. So you're telling me Alexandra Daddario, whatever the fuck her name is, who's in her 20s in this movie, which she should really be in her 40s, if we're truly honest, unless she's the most hottest looking 40-year-old of all time.
Yep.
And you cannot say, oh, well, maybe it could not be the case. There's a tombstone that says 2012. You have a fucking cop with a camera phone, with a flashlight. It was set in present day. That goes to tell you that the writers were very incompetent. They didn't pay a fucking attention at all. Leatherface himself, who I'm guessing is supposed to be in his 70s or 60s, but in this movie, I guess he's in his 40s or 50s, I guess, because 20 years later.
He's played by Dan Yeager.
Dan Yeager, yes. And how old is Dan Yeager at the time of filming?
Let me check. Right now, because this film came out 8 years ago, so count back 8 years, because right now he's 56.
56. So late 40s, early 50s.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's how it should be. But it's 20 years later, so okay, fine, all right. So these motherfuckers can't do math. All right, cool. They follow the same beats. You know, the hitchhiker, only except this time it's a guy. And it's straight out of a fucking Abercrombie and Finch catalog. You got motherfucking Trey Songz in the movie, which I knew exactly why they put him in this movie, to get the urban audience. You get some bullshit storyline about Trey Songz cheating on his girl with the other chick. I'm like, who gives a fuck? And the kills, lame. I'm sorry, lame. Yep. I think the look of Leatherface to me is a step down from Andrew, in my opinion. The goddamn twist in the movie makes no goddamn sense to me.
Nope.
Listen, if for one, Paul, if a relative that you had no idea about passes away and the realtor gives you a letter, would you read the letter before you went to Texas?
Well, obviously, yeah. I want to know what's going on.
Exactly. If she read the goddamn letter, Grant, there would be no movie, yes, but okay. So this lady, Alexandra Daddario, her friends get killed, boyfriend gets killed in the most stupid ways possible. The hitchhiker they picked up, they left in her brand new fucking house by himself. Well, you only knew him for like 20 minutes. What the fuck you doing? And
yeah, like how can you all of a sudden hitch a ride with some random ass fucking dude you don't know who ends up doing what he does later on? Like, would you want to pick up someone that you don't even fucking know? Like, what the fuck, dude? What's wrong?
Now, if it looked like Alexandra Daddario, I would think about it.
Well, okay, but still, it's like.
But yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, so the plot twist is that when she finally learns who her family is, despite the fact that Leatherface killed her friends, killed her boyfriend, well, his dumbass killed himself, but the movie tried to do like a Devil Reject type of thing where the citizens that attacked the Sawyer family in the beginning are really the villains and the Sawyers are the good guys. I'm like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't work like that. It does. It worked. The Devil's Reject. It does not work here. It does not work here. Like she's proclaiming the village, like the citizens of as murderers and all that stuff. And now all of a sudden she just turns crazy once she learns the family history. Oh, they're crazy, so I gotta be crazy too. And and then. And then the third act in the slaughterhouse, where if her shirt's not fucking open, Leatherface have no fucking clue she's a relative, and he cuts her loose. The sheriff and the mayor, they beat the fuck out of Leatherface, as they should. And then, Paul, I shit you not, when she ran outside, but she stopped. Yeah. I thought, I was like, oh, you better not, bitch, you better not do it. And then she comes in and throws him the chainsaw and says, "Do your thing, cuz." Paul, I ain't gonna lie to you, I almost turned off the TV. I turned it off. I wanted to turn it off right there.
Funny how she turns gangster all of a sudden when she realizes that, got Leatherface on her side.
Oh, yes, they're about the badass. We got Leatherface on your side. And then the movie ends when she finally reads the letter, as Marilyn Burns telling her who Leatherface is, who her family is, whatsoever. Yeah. I thought it was kind of a funny moment when she tried to connect to Leatherface, touch his face, and then Leatherface was like, "Bitch, I don't know you like that." Like, so, and then just pushed her hand away. I thought that was kind of a funny moment.
Yeah, he's just kind of he's like, "Lady, piss off. We're not there yet."
Yeah, I was I just found out. Hey, you and I just found out we're friends. We ain't that close yet. And then I guess she just accepts the fact that Leatherface is now her cousin, her protector now, and that's the most bullshit ending ever.
Yeah,
and
the door slamming shut again.
With the door slamming shut, and Paul, Texas Chainsaw 3 Dicks, in my opinion, is the worst movie because it doesn't make any fucking sense from a storytelling standpoint. Leatherface, I think, is wasted in this film, and why I say he's wasted, you have a scene when he's in a carnival.
Yeah, like if this is a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, shouldn't you be thinking he should be slaughtering everybody he's coming across? Nope, he's just casually walking by, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Leatherface. Fuck it, just carry on what we're doing."
Just casually walking by. Where did the budget? Like, I did this have like a how? Can you tell what the budget was?
I can tell you right now. The budget was $20 million, and it made $47 million at the box office. So
so it was a hit, but
it's hit over here, over in the States.
Okay, but $20 million budget. You could. Halloween 2018 had a $10 million budget and did more. You could have had Leatherface kill a couple people in that fucking carnival. But he has an encounter with Jigsaw. Like, get the fuck out of here. And then and then the scene when the cop, when he threw the chain, that could have been a cool kill when he threw the chainsaw. He could have cut that fucker's head off, but he ducked. I'm like, wow. I thought this was the biggest waste, probably the biggest waste of Leatherface since the third film. No. The fourth film.
Yeah, I was going to say, hang on a minute.
Yeah. The fourth film. I mean, he wasn't a bitch, but I just thought, it had some good gore, like when he cut the dude in half. But
Yeah.
I just thought you got an opportunity here. Him in a carnival, go fucking nuts, and they didn't do it. I was really disappointed. And the whole swerve that they tried to do with Alexander Daddario, just reading a couple newspaper clips, and now and I was like, that's my family. I'm crazy now. Like, what?
Whole lot of crazy there, isn't there?
Whole lot of crazy. Like, Paul, we're rational human beings. If we read something like that, first of all, I'm freaked the fuck out. I'm like, holy shit. I'm not gonna be like, that's my family. Y'all killed my family. Y'all's evil. I'm like, come on now. Like, no normal person acts like that.
Nope.
Now, Paul, I will say the swerve would have made sense if she found out about her boyfriend cheating on her, and because there's a scene where her boyfriend and the girl was fucking in the barn. If she somehow walked in on them, that could have been, I could buy that. That could be like the start of her turn right there, where she doesn't give a fuck anymore, but she doesn't find out. She has no clue her boyfriend. She doesn't have a clue her boyfriend cheated on her. So I'm like, there's no payoff.
Exactly. It's like if we were the writers of this screenplay and we had that scene coming in, that's exactly what we would have done. But they didn't take the opportunity to do that. So they fucked up there. And the fact that she never knew, there was no explanation or no reason for her to be acting crazy randomly. If you had that scene where she found out, it would have made a bit more sense for her to be a little crazy about it.
Yeah, it would have made sense. Like if me and you was writing the scene, I would say, okay, this was gonna happen. Okay, her boyfriend, is gonna be fucking in the barn. Okay, she's gonna walk in on them. She's gonna run out like sad and distressed. And then you get that same moment when she walks in on Leatherface in the kitchen cutting the fingers, and we get that chase scene. Boom, there you go. Easy fix.
That's how they should have done it, but they didn't. Who's the writer of this? Hang on, let me see who the fucking writers are. Okay, this was written by 3 people, believe it or not.
That's never a good sign.
Kirsten Elms, Deborah Sullivan, and Adam Marcus. And to my knowledge,
Adam Marcus. That name sounds familiar. Adam Marcus.
Let me check what he's done. Hold on. All right. Turns out he wrote the story for Jason Goes to Hell.
Ah, shit. I actually like that movie.
Yeah, and then he comes and does this. It's like, dude, what have you done here?
I'm actually one of the few that actually likes Jason Goes to Hell. Oh, okay.
Dude, I like Jason. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I thought it was fun too. Well, shit. Yeah, anytime there's a movie where it's like 3 writers, right? 2 is pushing it. But if it's 3, then you're like, yeah, it's off to a bad start.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, but yeah. Fuck Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Terrible plot, terrible story. The twist made no goddamn sense. And the sheriff, telling Leatherface to clean this shit up. Like, why? Why?
Over.
I like that's the one thing I hate about these damn Texas Chainsaw films. They make twists that they don't explain. Like, oh
man.
Okay. Paul, what are your thoughts on this movie?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I really wanted to like this film. I really did, but all the issues that this film had just kind of took that experience away from me. I mean, I went to go see it in the cinema. Yeah, I went to go see it in 3D. And I was hoping, because when I heard Lionsgate was taking over, I was like, okay, Lionsgate, Saw movies. This is going to be pretty fucking interesting. Didn't quite go the way I wanted it to. Yes, okay, it had some decent gore effects. I'm not going to take that away from it. Leatherface was very underused in this. I mean, the fact that he did not go after everybody in the carnival, That there was the biggest fucking mistake they did. When this is a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, so let's have a massacre. Where the fuck was that? He's meant to be this fucking psycho, and we didn't get that. As for the townsfolks, there was nothing likable about them. Most of them were assholes anyway, especially the main villain, the mayor. But apart from that, like I said, there were some bits where you could say, okay, cool. But just the overall experience for me with this film, it could have been good. It had all the right elements to do it, but didn't work out. And again, this was actually probably one of the first horror films they did where they tried to retcon all the sequels. The only problem is this film wasn't successful at doing that. Halloween, on the other hand, different story. But no, I mean, like, I wanted to like this, but it just, man, it fell. And it's such a shame too, because it could have worked. It really could have if they didn't make too many fucking mistakes on it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like this movie can kiss the blackest part of my ass. That's all I'm going to say.
It's the second worst movie in the series for me, and it's a shame.
Second worst?
Yeah, it's the second worst, and it could not have been if they did. Put my teeth back in. If they didn't make those mistakes, this would have replaced the 2006 prequel with this one for me in my top 4.
Hey, Paul, if you're running from somebody with a chainsaw, are you gonna hide in the fucking casket?
Fuck no. That's gonna be killed. The fuck are you thinking? Oh, I'm just gonna hide in the casket. Oh, he won't find me. Oh, there's a chainsaw blade coming at me. I'm fucked. Ah! You're dead if you're in the casket doing that. Like, get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, man. And then that one bitch tried to be all tough, like, welcome to Texas, motherfucker. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. As soon as that happened, like, no shells. I'm like, just fucking kill her already, please.
Yeah. Just kill her. So just kill her. See, that's the one thing about horror movies with me. Okay, like if you're gonna make me a horror movie, you create some fucking characters I actually like. None of them I liked. Sorry.
They were not likable. None of them. I'm sorry, but they just wasn't.
And Paul, I'm sorry to cut you off, Paul. Sorry to cut you off, Paul. But okay, did you notice at first the fuck up in the time jump? How didn't make no sense?
Yeah.
Or did it take you a couple of watches to get it?
Oh no! When they said 20 years, and I looked at everything like technology-wise and vehicle-wise and age-wise, I'm like, 20 years. No, you should have set this as 39 years later.
Yeah, because now if they said this movie takes place in like 1990, okay, that would make sense. But it's set in 2012. So I'm like, so Alexandra Daddario's character is supposed to be 40, but she looks 21? Jesus Christ, people.
Do your maths, people. Otherwise, don't fucking bother writing it. Like, why? It's 38 years, not 20. God, is that so hard? Like, fuck.
Oh, shit. All right, so now we get to the last installment. I don't have the poster, unfortunately, but that's all right. That is the 2017 another fucking reboot. A prequel. I'm sorry. This franchise got 2 goddamn prequels. Called, once again, Leatherface, which, by the way, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 is also called Leatherface. And I'm sorry, I'd rather watch Part 3. Okay, once again, another goddamn origin story about Leatherface, and they try to switch shit up, about how Leatherface's origin and all that stuff, and they try to be slick. It's basically Devil's Rejects mixed with natural born killers. That's basically what this movie is. And they try to be slick, making you think, it's Mickey and Mallory, and then you got the big overweight guy who makes you think could be Leatherface. Then you got the good looking kid, which a bullshit twist, and
yeah, it's like I thought for sure the big dude was Leatherface, and then that went down. I was just like, oh no, you haven't.
And no, and then you got Steven Dorff, who plays Frost.
Al Hartman.
Yeah, him and Frost in Blade. Really, really good actor. Don't understand why he's not. Don't understand why he's not in more movies. I thought he was a really good actor. He plays the sheriff. What's that?
I think he got blackballed a little bit at some point in his career.
Probably. Yeah. I'll probably have to go with, blackballed, which horrible. But then you got he plays a character which is basically the sheriff character in fucking Devil's Rejects, and of course it tries to take from Devil's Rejects again, where it's like, okay, yeah, he's trying to get justice. Is he going too far and all that stuff? And I'm like, God, stop trying to take from Devil's Rejects, okay? Like, which, by the way, Rob Zombie's best movie, but stop trying to fucking take from that. Yeah, bro, I thought this shit was boring, uninteresting. Look, here's the thing about Leatherface, okay? Leatherface, legend, icon. He's the one, in the words of Ice Cube, he started this slasher shit, and this is the motherfucking thanks he gets. But Leatherface's backstory, I'm sorry, it's not interesting. It's not interesting. Like, okay, he's a guy who has some sort of skin deformity, bullied in school, okay, or whatever. He has a mask. He makes different masks. He has a chainsaw. That's it. There's really nothing that you need to know. Like, I don't understand this franchise obsession with trying to figure out why Leatherface is what he is. And how they go about it here is fucking dumb. Oh, he was such good friends with the heavyset guy. So what, I guess 20 years later, he makes himself fat to make himself look like like, come on, bro. Like, I'm supposed to believe that this, again, pause, this good-looking guy, good-looking skinny dude turns out to be motherfucking Gunnar Hansen in 1974. Get the fuck out of here. And then the twist, well, what did it for him was when he gets shot in the face. I'm like, okay. And I thought they made Steven Dorff look an idiot. I thought acting wise he gives a good performance, but he really gives nothing to do. Yeah, Paul, I'm sorry, but 3D, at least it pissed me off. Yeah. This movie, I could not get no emotion out of it because I was just bored. I thought it was boring. It was a cash grab, and there's a reason why this movie did not go to theaters. There's a reason why. I think it went to VOD, I think.
DirecTV.
That says a lot. That says something.
Yeah, it says here that it was on DirecTV, then it was in limited theater runs. It did make a little something at the box office. It only made like $500,000. But this movie had a whole heap of filming issues, from what I understand. Because I remember this film was first announced in, I think it was 2014. Originally, they were going to do a sequel to the 3D one. In fact, Lionsgate, they were actually planning to do 5 more movies in this series. With the
for the love of God,
they were going to do that. But unfortunately, there was a lot of issues going on. There was a lot of different cooks in the kitchen. The thing that what grabbed my interest initially was who was directing this film, and it was the guys who did that French horror film Inside. So when I heard that initially, I thought, okay, this could be all right, because I remember watching Inside, and that was a creepy ass movie. So then watching this, like first time I was like, okay, maybe a little bit interested in there. But then watching it again today, I was just kind of like, man, what did I see in this initially? Because I didn't quite see it now. Initially, I saw something, but now I didn't see it the second time. I was like, what was I thinking then? Like, what was it that interested me the first time? Was it the twist that they tried to introduce? Or maybe it could have been that. I don't know. But watching it again, I was just like, man, why the fuck did I like this first time around?
I don't know, man. I just at this point, Paul, this is the moment. This is the moment, bro, where I'm like, I got three. In my opinion, I got three shitty Chainsaw movies in the prequel in 3D and this one. Now I'm at the point, Paul, where I'm like, fuck this franchise. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm kind of on that boat with it a little bit because it's like out of all the horror franchises we've got over the years, I mean, look at some of the ones we've been seeing over the years. Friday the 13th, hit and misses, but people still have something to enjoy about them. Child's Play, they've had some decent runs. The last two movies, remake aside, I fucking hate the remake. The last two movies were good. Hell, that fucking TV show they brought out recently was good. So they managed to turn that around. Halloween has managed to turn shit around. Hellraiser, to some extent, in some essence, has with some of them. Not all of them.
Jeepers Creepers is trying.
Yeah, Jeepers Creepers is doing a fourth one. The guy that directed them originally is not involved in it this time around.
Nope.
And you know, some of the Saw movies is hit and miss, but they've always been entertaining to watch, even if some of them storyline wise was shit. There's always something about them that I enjoyed. Scream movies, they've been really good. I mean, fucking hell, we got part 5 coming, and with the people that got involved in that, the guys who did Ready or Not, they're doing Scream 5. I got some hope for that one. But with Texas Chainsaw, it's like the people they always get involved in it, they can't seem to get it fucking right. The only people that got it right was Tobe Hooper with the original 2, Marcus Nispel with the remake, maybe a little bit with Jonathan Liebsman to some extent with the prequel, but everybody else is like, what the fuck is going wrong with this? How the fuck can you fuck up a movie like Texas Chainsaw as much as they have with this? Like, who the fuck is they getting to do this? Like, how are they picking these names out of the hat, thinking that it will work? With the people that got involved with Leatherface, the directors-wise, yeah, you had the right directors, but they fucked up with the screenplay. I mean, who the fuck wrote the screenplay for this? Seth M. Sherwood. I don't know who this guy is. I'm going to IMDb what he's done before this. I'm going to take a look right now. Hang on.
Okay.
Just thinking about this now kind of pisses me off because you can make a decent Texas Chainsaw movie as long as you don't get people fucking it up.
It
can be done, but they fucked it up. All right, let me see what this guy's done. Okay, so this guy has written The World of Corey and Sid, which is some TV series. He did some short called Fruitcake. He was the uncredited writer for London Has Fallen. Then he did Leatherface. Then he did some film called Hellfest, which was all right. And the next one he's currently writing right now is something called Boyfriend. So he's mostly doing thrillers or some arty-farty dramas or some shit. But
so horror is not his thing.
No, definitely not. I mean, he did Hellfest, which was probably the only good horror movie he did. But everything else is like, I don't know. Well, again, we've had 3 Texas Chainsaw movies where you could have had something good, but they fucked up. I think they royally fucked up with the 3D because, like I said, I wanted to like it. Never happened. This one, the first time I watched it, I found it interesting. And now looking back at it, I'm like, what was it I found interesting in it to begin with? Because looking at it again, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Now that we're going into comparison with all this, when we watched them all back to back, you look at it differently now. And I certainly did with this one. It's a classic case of you saw something the first time, but then you watch it again, you think, man, why the fuck did I see something in it in the first place? And it's a shame because this franchise deserves better. And with this new one coming up, I'm really hoping. I mean, think about this, guys. We've gone from the original movie 50 years on nearly, which is an undeniable classic that still has the power to entertain and still has the ability to shock the shit out of people. Part 2, people can say whatever the fuck they want about it, but that movie is a cult classic in its own right with just standout performances. Bill Moseley is chopped up. I said it earlier. He's a fucking wild ball of energy. And him playing Otis, good reason why Rob Zombie picked him to do that. Part 3, by the numbers, yeah, okay. But there was still something in there to enjoy, even if it wasn't as good as the first 2. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, fuck off. Simple. The remake, hands down, probably the closest we got to being as good as the first 2. I mean, literally. There's a reason why that one did so well with critics and box office. The prequel, it's like Marmite. Some people like it. Some people hate it. I liked it. I still kind of like it. I do know it has its flaws, but there's still enough in there for me to enjoy. 3D, I wanted to like it, but look how shit that turned out to be. And in this one, like we just pointed out, I saw something initially, but now I'm like, why? So here we are, going on 5 years later, and we're going to be having a new one dropping on Netflix.
And what do you know about what's gonna be in this new one?
All right, I'm gonna read what I can find right now, and then I'm gonna tell you. Let me just find it a second.
No problem.
All right.
But don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, folks. And hope you're enjoying the video.
All right, here we go. This is what we know about Texas Chainsaw, the new one. Now, Legendary Pictures has now taken over the rights for this. They own this now. They have first announced this movie in 2019. This was originally going to be a cinema release, but because of what we're dealing with right now with COVID and all that other shit, now it's going to be a Netflix deal. Now, storyline-wise, this is the premise on what I'm reading so far. A couple of friends head to a remote, abandoned town of Harlow, Texas, to start an idealistic new business venture. Their new dream soon turns to a walking nightmare when they accidentally disrupt the home of Leatherface. And now here's something that you're going to find either interesting or stupid. Sally, the original survivor, played by somebody else, wants to get revenge on Leatherface. That's the premise of what we're looking at right now.
Okay. I can roll with that.
So what they're doing here is that they're disregarding every film in the franchise. They're doing a Halloween. They're disregarding every film in the franchise. And this takes place 50 years after the events of the first movie. So this will be once again, a direct sequel to the original film. Now, what got me interested here is the people who wrote the story. Fred Alvarez and Raldo Salugas. These are the guys who did the 2013 Evil Dead movie, which I will tell you right now, I found very impressive. I when I first heard about that, I thought, man, they're going to fuck this up. When I saw it in the cinema, I was very surprised. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, these are the guys you need to look out for. Then they did Don't Breathe 1 and 2. Again, both movies I liked. So, and I also got to mention, they're also producing this movie too, along with Kim Hankel and his son, Ian. And this movie's going to be clocking at 81 minutes. So it's going to be a short film. But that's all we got so far. They have released a trailer for it. It's on YouTube. If you want to show folks that on here, go for it. But I do know also we have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game coming as well from the same
Yes,
guy
we do.
who is made by the same people who did Friday the 13th. I don't know if it's going to have a single player campaign or not. This only got announced a few days ago. But yeah, my expectations for this new Texas Chainsaw is kind of teetering. These guys that are involved in writing the story, as far as I'm concerned, are probably this franchise's last best shot at making something for this. Now, here's the thing: even though these guys are the story writers, the guy who adapted the screenplay, let me get his name here. 1 second. I'm going to find out who these directors are and who the writers are. All right, so the writer of the screenplay who adapted the story that these two did is Chris Thomas Devlin. And from what I understand, this is his first screenplay.
Oh boy.
So that could be worrying. But another film he's done is something called Cobweb, which is in post-production, and that's a horror. So this is a horror screenwriter. And as far as the director goes, his name is David Blue Garcia. And what's he done? This is only his second movie. The first one he did is something called Tijano, which is some kind of thriller. But originally they had somebody else direct it, but that guy got fired during the first day of filming, and then they got this guy on board. So this film has had a bit of a rocky production process. They started filming in August last year in Bulgaria, and that's pretty much all I've got right now. We just know that this is going to be a direct sequel, and my interest is because of who's involved in writing it. And it's a Netflix exclusive. This is not going to have a cinema release. This is going to be straight to Netflix. So I have no idea how this is going to play out, guys. I hope it's good. I'm not holding my breath, but because of who's doing the story, I have a little bit of hope. It's not much. So if this movie fails, then the franchise is fucked. As if it ain't fucked already. But what do you think about this, James?
You want to know what I think?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Fair enough.
That's okay, and it's not me just being bitter. A part of it is, but it's just more. It's just more that like the fact that they're doing this again tells me that they fucked up, and like I just don't know what more you can do with the Leatherface Chainsaw Massacre character. I don't know what more you could do for it. I'm right there with you. I hope it's good. I will watch it, of course, obviously.
We have to review it. I know that much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I just, where I am with the Chainsaw Massacre franchise right now, it's 3 movies with me. It's 1, 2, and the remake, and I'll even throw in, like if this was a date and I ran out of options, and part 3 would be my last options. You know what I mean? So like if I went to a bar and the 3 baddest chicks turn me down, well, I gotta pick the ugliest one. Well, I find 3 is the ugliest one. All right, but but to wrap this up, Paul, where does Leatherface stand? Because we all know the big 3: Michael, Freddy, and Jason.
Wow.
Where does Leatherface... Will you disagree with that, Paul?
No. I'm just trying to decide where I'm going to put him.
Oh, okay. Where does Leatherface stand with you when it comes to horror icons? And do you think because of how bad these films have been, do you think that he's kind of been underrated, underappreciated as the years went on?
I've got this feeling that's just, I do agree with the underappreciated side of things, because, you know, a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, or maybe they don't realize it, is that Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw, this is the guy who fucking wrote the damn blueprint on what we see today in modern horrors. If Leatherface didn't exist, there wouldn't be a Halloween. There wouldn't be a Friday the 13th. I mean, there'll probably be some slasher movies, but I don't think you'd have the blueprint that you got today with a lot of the horror movies that we see today. Like you look at all these horror movies we've been seeing over the years, all these like slasher movies, and you look at films like Halloween, and you look at films like Friday the 13th. None of that shit would be like it is right now if it wasn't for Leatherface. Leatherface was the first masked fucking killer, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things here, people. And yes, he has a legacy. Yes, he has his fans. Yes, he's got a cult following. I mean, he's not fucking tattooed on my arm for no reason. He's there with Michael Myers. He's there with Chucky. He's there with Freddy and Jason. He's in with the slasher guys. He's on that list. He deserves to be in that list. But the problem is that he's had more fucking fails than hits, movie-wise. I mean, yeah, okay, you could probably say the same thing with Halloween. They've had their strings of hit and misses and different timelines and reboots, but they got their shit together eventually with the recent ones, what we've been seeing. Friday the 13th has had its shares of hit and misses, but at the end of the day, they've had more movies that people like than those that they don't like. And that's the problem with Texas Chainsaw, is that even though there's 10 movies going in right now, we're 10 movies in, and a lot of people will say the first two and the remakes are the only ones that people will say they're the ones they like the most. So out of 10 movies, only 3 of them we would consider absolutely essential watches, which is just criminal if you ask me, man. So Leatherface definitely does deserve his place amongst the horror icons that we've been watching today. It's just a shame that the majority of his movies don't hit well with a lot of people, and it's a shame because the elements are there. You got the right stories put there if you do it properly, but it's just a case of the movies have always had fucking too many cooks in the kitchen, and that's his biggest weakness. Too many cooks in the kitchen thinking they can do something different with it, and doesn't always work. And that's the problem. I mean, fucking hell. I bet you Tobe Hooper would be flipping in his fucking grave right now if he saw what this franchise has become to some extent. And the crazy thing is, he's been the executive producer on even the ones that we don't like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got to get this right, because a lot of us right now, our patience are wearing thin. And we can say that for a lot of the horror movies that we've watched, but they eventually get it right in the end. And if not as a movie, as a TV show. Look at some of these horror movies, dude, that have become TV shows and have turned out to be phenomenally good. Ash vs. Evil Dead, Wolf Creek,
Yeah.
Chucky. Fucking Chucky, dude. I really love that show. So if Texas Chainsaw Massacre can't find success as a movie after this one, then go the TV series direction. Maybe then you can flesh something out of it, because some of these horror movies have been finding success as a TV series. So
now, I will say this though. I will say this though, and before anybody asks, do I think no, Halloween should not be a goddamn TV show? No, that's the one franchise that does not need to be a TV show.
No, that I can agree with. You keep that as a movie. If somebody does make it as a TV series, my advice is don't fuck up because James here will be watching and he will fucking take it apart.
No. Here's the thing: if you're going to do it as a TV show, I would suggest doing it. Do a Gotham where it's more about Dr. Loomis and his time with Michael in the sanitarium.
Yes, do it like that. Put it in that direction. I mean, shit, dude. If we were the writers of that show, that's how it should be done. If you're going to do Halloween as a TV series, do it that way. As a Texas Chainsaw TV series, I don't know, man. If they do go for that route, you're going to have to seriously rethink everything. Learn from
make it an origin again.
Well, I would say learn from the mistakes that the franchise has gone through. Learn from the mistakes. Don't do the same mistakes that others have done. That's the only way you're going to make it successful. It's the same with this movie. Learn from the mistakes. If I know it sounds crazy, they're going to be retconning it again. But again, I got a little bit of confidence in the guys who's writing the story. It all comes down to the guy who's adapting the story screenplay-wise. I just hope they don't fuck this up, because if this one fails, then my advice is don't make any more. If you can't do it properly, don't do it.
Well, my thoughts on Leatherface and his place in horror. Like I said in the beginning of the video, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas, Billy and all of them, those two characters laid the foundation for the slasher genre. I think Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre are two of the more underappreciated slashers in the slasher genre because barely nobody talks about Black Christmas. Nobody talks about that.
Which is strange because, that movie is just as good as all the others. I mean, okay, it hasn't had a monster franchise like the others have gone and done, but it's still a damn good movie.
Yes, if you watch Black Christmas, you could see the John Carpenter. If you watch Halloween and watch Black Christmas, you could okay, Carpenter obviously got this shot, how he shot this scene from Black Christmas.
Exactly.
But I think Leatherface over the years has become underrated and become underappreciated, and I think it's because the movies have not been received well, and the fact that it's an older movie from Halloween, and then plus people don't really talk about it as much. Like Halloween, I mean, Michael Myers is a part of the culture. Jason is pop culture. He crossed over to pop culture. Freddy crossed over to pop culture. Even Chucky crossed over to pop culture. And Leatherface never really had that push behind him like that. And I think it's because it came out a few years before. And two, the movies has been bad, and I
would just put it like this: he is the black sheep of the horror icons.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, as far as the new one goes, we'll just see what happens. That's all I can say. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
But yeah, man, this was a very, very fun conversation, Paul. Hopefully you guys that tuned in to watch enjoyed the conversation. Not many shows have actually sat down and talked in depth about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So be sure to like the video, share the video, comment as well. Paul, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, guys, if you want to check out some really cool video game streams, just drop on Twitch, Gorehound 1983. And I hope you guys have enjoyed us talking about this franchise, going in depth. I'm hoping that you guys found it insightful and entertaining. And we'll definitely be doing more again soon, hopefully.
Oh, and an exclusive. Paul, being that Christmas is coming up, would you be down to doing a Black Christmas review?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. On Christmas?
Why the fuck not?
All right, my man. All right, so on Christmas, we will be doing a Black Christmas review. So be on the lookout for that. And hit the like and subscribe button, and share the video, like the video, and also don't forget to check out the Primetime Podcast. And also don't forget to check out my video I did about Jeff Hardy. And then everybody have a good, safe weekend. And then and I'll end the video with how we began. Peace.
Laters.